to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast, brought to you by Phoenix Boats. Now, here are your hosts, Alabama Bass Trail Program Director, Kay Donaldson.
Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and the host for your podcast this week. And yeah, we're a little late. I don't know if you've been kind of keeping up this week with Alabama Bass Trail, but it's been a week. I left Prattville, Cooter's Pond around 6:30 on Saturday night. If you were watching live, you know that it came a rainstorm, and that always adds to the fun at the Alabama River. But had a rainstorm probably an hour into the weigh-in. Things get chaotic. It's always chaotic at the Alabama River. And I want to say this and understand that we are so thankful for our host cities, but Cooter's Pond gives us a few little issues. Parking is always interesting. It's a big circle. When you come into Cooter's Pond, it's a big circle, and guys park all along that circle all the way around. There's parking for about 30 in one parking lot. There's about 40 in another parking lot, but the others are on grass. And you may be sitting 3 boat lengths away from where you make the turn to go to the boat ramp. But if guys are letting people in front of you, there's nothing you can do about that if they're letting them in the line in front of you. But then if you're on the other side of the circle trying to make your way all the way around, which is probably 3/4 of a mile, I would say, and people are letting others in front of you all the way around, it makes your stay a little longer. I can say this. I mean, if I'm the guy out in the boat and I'm the guy in the truck, I'm communicating to say, hey, guy, I'm 2 away from being at the ramp. Be on your way. We didn't have that. I'll just say that. There were a lot of guys that just got caught up out there talking, and their guy was sitting on the ramp, trailer in the water, and they had not even pulled their trolling motor up yet. So it's just a tough place. We're going to have a little bit better plan next year to get you in and out of the water, but understanding everything has to go perfect. One guy said the guy behind him hit him twice, sitting in line, hit him twice. We warned about that on our live meeting prior going into this tournament. Pay attention to the guy in front of you, because we have more accidents in line there than the entire year, because guys aren't paying attention. So it's a tough venue, but it's a great host city, and the fishery is phenomenal. And you want to be on the Alabama River at some point. Miller's Ferry, great fishery, phenomenal facility, very low in housing for a 225 boat tournament. So we face obstacles everywhere we go. But getting the boats in the water, not so much, because we have our entire staff dedicated to it. In the afternoon, we can't dedicate our entire staff because there's fish care that's got to be done. There's a bump sink that needs to be manned. There's a bag line that needs to be manned. We just can't dedicate the entire staff to that. So, and even if we did, we're still relying on you guys to do your part and communicate with your partner to let him know that you're on your way or that you're on the ramp. And so he can at least get his trolling motor up and get gone. We had a number of people that fish by themselves. They can't help that. Their partner had to work or their partner had an event and they were by themselves. And so it takes a little while to get your truck down there, then go get your boat, get it loaded, get it winched up, get it locked in, and then to pull out of the boat ramp. So a lot of things in play. I don't know that we'll ever have a perfect process. I think it was quicker than it was last year. It's just a lot working against you. And then, of course, a rainstorm that comes in an hour after weigh-in starts. But great event. 17-11 is what it took to win. Chase and Chad Schroeder. We're going to talk to them in the second segment. But I left there at 6:30, drove over to Auburn, which was about an hour and 45 minutes away. Went to a conference, the Alabama RC&D conference. We've been lucky enough to get a grant from them to help us purchase our fish care equipment. We've applied for some other grants with other agencies as well, but RCN is one of those. Just a very good networking conference, but it's good to see what they're doing in the communities that we visit. And they are busy, busy people. They work a lot with water and soil, which makes it an automatic connection for us. Very similar to the Coosa, Alabama River Improvement Association that we belong to. So just a lot going on there so I went over to that conference, was there a day and a half, came home because I just felt so overwhelmed with work that we had to get done, got the checks out in the mail, and it's just been busy. I don't know if y'all heard this or not, but we announced the 2026 Alabama Bass Trail schedule, and it went out 2 days early. We can talk about that in the last segment. We won't get into that right now. But challenges, but great to be there. Marked number 3 off the list. You know, you're kind of midway through the season. Points start shaping up. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But yeah, it was a challenging tournament. I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm really good to say when we're great, and I'm really good to say when we suck. And I don't necessarily think that we sucked. We were just undermanned. And Mark was out, Danny was out. We did replace them, but unfortunately, they have jobs to do at the tournament, so not putting them on the ramp. We'll have to have people at the ramp, and I think John Brown with Southern Protection Agency is going to help us with that next year. John runs a security company, but has traffic control, traffic detail, and all of that. If you haven't visited their website, make sure you go there and take a look at it. I mean, I know a number of you work for companies that utilize those kinds of services. And John called me immediately. Matter of fact, the hat that I'm wearing on stage is a hat John gave to me because he knows. He's like, I'm not saying you look bad. I'm just saying I know how you are about your hair and your things, and I was soaked. And so he brought me a hat. But I think John's going to work with us. He's a new partner on the Alabama Bass Pro. He's going to work with us to get us a traffic control team out there next year, especially for that event. So I'm very thankful for that. But it just throws us some curveballs. We'll just say that. I mean, why not? I mean, I'm surprised it didn't snow. Luke predicted it would snow, and I'm surprised it didn't. And if it would have, Luke Duncan would have been fired. He knows that. He's very well aware of that. We're going to talk about the 2026 schedule when we get to the third segment of this podcast. But let's talk about what we're going to talk about in this podcast. Chase and Chad are going to come on. They're going to talk about their second win on the Alabama Bass Pro. We're going to reminisce about our buddy Big Daddy Lawler. I know in my heart of hearts that Big Daddy was up there smiling on Saturday, knowing some of his Camden, Alabama River guys was taking home that trophy and that $15,000. Big Daddy's watched those kids fish since they were teenagers. And I know that he was walking around smiling, knowing that Chase and Chad got their second win. For those of you that don't follow us, they won back at Lake Martin on a tournament they almost didn't even come to because there was a big event going on in Camden, and they felt like they had a better chance to win there. But they came on up to Lake Martin and took home a win at the Alabama Bass Trail there. So now they've won on the Alabama River. So 2-time winners on the Alabama Bass Trail. Let's talk about the Alabama River by the numbers. And yep, I'm old, so let's do this. Alabama River, 212 teams fished. Yes, 225 paid, but for some reason or another, they weren't able to show up. 174 teams weighed in limits. 199 of the 212 teams weighed in. 956 bass were weighed in. 927 were released alive. 412 largemouth, 544 spotted bass. Only 2 fish over 5 pounds, which kind of surprised me a little bit. 587 was our big fish of the tournament. I've already mentioned 1711 is what it took to win. 1,983.07 pounds was the total weight weighed in, and it took 12.73 to get that 40th place check. Just to kind of recognize some of the other winners besides Chase and Chad in the field, John Brown won his second Phoenix Payday $2,500 bonus for being the highest place finisher that's in a Phoenix. And I know if you go to the results page, you're going to look down, you're going to, oh, this one, this one, this one. Those guys aren't the original owners. And Phoenix Payday is for original owners that own a Phoenix boat. So $2,500 goes to John Brown. Foster Bradley won a $2,000 bonus from Amherst. He was the highest finisher. He had his truck and boat both financed with them. So that's $2,000 to him. Hunter Gilbert and David Quinn won $1,000 for the 587 Big Fish. So a lot of money handed out there on the Alabama Bass Trail. I think Rob Leaf, Steve Winslet, they won the $250 Alabama Bass Trail bonus, and that's awarded to anyone with the Alabama Bass Trail logo, whether it be a hat, a buff, a jersey, the jersey they make or jerseys we sell at the tournament. As long as it has the ABT logo on it, on the front of it, and is visible when they come across the stage, we award $250 to the highest finisher. So that went to Rob Lee and Steve Winslet, always decked out in their Alabama Bass Trail gear. So that is the rundown of the winners on that. One thing I want to talk about, and we talked about this going in when Luke and I talked about this tournament. This is what I would consider the equalizer, the Neely Henry of the South in the ABT South Division. And I feel like I'm talking really fast, and I don't mean to. I did have a Celsius early this morning, but I'm recording at 5 o'clock. So that was like at 9 a.m. this morning. So I don't know why I'm talking so fast. I'll try to slow down. We talk about the Alabama River being kind of the equalizer tournament. I don't really think anyone has home lake advantage there. If anyone did, it would probably be Chris Rutland. I just don't think, I think the water fluctuation kind of ruins that sometimes. Just spreading it out and going to different times of the year, I really don't think you can get a home lake advantage. Honestly, I think the weekend before Chance Perry won with 13 pounds. So Chance is in this field as well. He did, I think, maybe get a check, but didn't get the win. So that tells me that this lake is not one of those home lake advantage type lakes. So let's talk about the points and where people are now and where they were. And yes, I have my notes because, I mean, who can just remember all of this off the cuff? John Brown, Trey Sorrells move into first place. They were in second place going into this tournament. Let's talk about first place. Shane Thompson, Brent Shiver were in first place going into this tournament. Had two phenomenal events leading the season from Lake Martin and Logan Martin. This tournament, they dropped from first down to 12th. They are at 581. So that is 1943, about 70 something points away from where they want to be. That's not what they were hoping for. I can tell you that. Shane and Brent are phenomenal anglers, and no way they slip out of the top 9 and stay there. I think they are really looking forward to Lake Eufaula. They're going to certainly put their time in. Let's talk about second place. That's Zeke Gossett and Ethan King. They are currently sitting in second place, up from third. Small jump for them. Greg Sessions up from 7th place to 3rd place. Rob Lee, Steve Winslet coming from outside that top 9 and 11th place to hitting 4th place. Michael Cox, Colt Boyette stayed the same. They stayed in 5th place. James Willoughby, Square is what I call them because it's James Willoughby and James Willoughby. They're up from 13th place to 6th. 7th place, Cole and Noah Godwin moved up from 21st place to 7th, 14th place jump. Andrew Hall and Mike Hall up from 14th to 8th place. Brian Adamson and Ryan Lloyd, if you listened to the podcast last week, before the season started, these were my guys that I've chose for Angler of the Year. I just felt like that this was their year. They came off a really strong year last year. They've been in the Alabama Bass Trail for a while. They've cycled through these lakes. They kind of know the do's and don'ts. They moved from 10th to 8th. 53 points is what they have to make up at this point. Going to be tough to do that at Eufaula alone unless they win. But with 2 tournaments left, I still like my pick. Mark McKeag, Tim Hurst fell 1 place from 9th to 10th. And then Joey Adderhold, Tim Hatcher dropped from 4th to 13th. Frank Bradfield, Tyler Morgan, and hey, Waylon Morgan was born right after the tournament. Tyler did make it to the hospital in time, but new daddy, Tyler Morgan, they are up from 29th place to 14th place with 2 tournaments left to go. Our winners, Chad and Chase Schroeder, up from 37th place to 18th. And another story that I didn't see this happening. Terry Stevens and Gabe Aldridge fell from 6th place down to 20th place. So, still a lot of chance. Like, I would say, I would even say down to 25th place. I feel like those teams have a chance to get inside that top 9. And of course, who's in 26th place? But Chris Rutland and Kobe Carden. And yeah, we're finishing up the year at Lay in June where they have 4 wins. Nothing like keeping it interesting. Nothing like keeping it interesting. But yeah, that's kind of why I say that this tournament is the Neely Henry of the South. It is one of those tournaments that a lot of points can be made up and a lot of points can be lost. Going to be real interesting to see what top 10 teams are going to get cameras at Lay Lake. I have a feeling guys are going to put 3 days of practice in at Eufaula. I didn't see where Shane Powell and Tim Fox are. Let me just see if I can breeze through here and see. There's still some teams that are not where I would pick them to be, not where I would have thought they would have been. But just scanning, I don't see them. Nope, I don't see them in my first few little pages. They're going to not be happy with me for saying that. Maybe I missed them. Maybe I just didn't scan over them properly. Don't see them. Not gonna live on that. Not gonna do that. I would imagine though that they've got to be kind of licking their chops at Lake Eufaula being there in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from this weekend. So we're excited to get to Eufaula too. But overall, we had great weather. I don't know that it rained the entire time we were in Prattville, except for 30 minutes at about 3:00, 3:15 on Saturday. No rain, no real change in the water. I think it fell about a foot. But overall, a great week in Prattville. A lot of golfing going on. Everywhere I turned, there were golfers. But that's what you expect when you go to a town that has 3 Robert Trent Jones golf courses. So, really cool time to be in Montgomery. Got to do a legislative event there on Tuesday night. I had some sponsor meetings on Wednesday, Thursday. Just a lot going on the Alabama Bass Trail right now. It's a busy time. So, but we're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back and we're going to be with Chad and Chase Schroeder, your winners, 2-time winners on the Alabama Bass Trail South. Going to be a lot of fun hearing from them and then get to talk to them a little bit about Big Daddy. It's going to be a lot of fun. So after that, we're going to have Mr. Lee Pitts going to come in and talk about Weiss Lake, what his expectations are for his home lake, Weiss Lake, and then also talk a little bit about this new boating law in the state of Alabama, the 100 foot from any structures, banks, anything, bridges, things like that. So he's going to come in and talk a little bit about that because some people may not be aware of that and how it's going to affect you when you're running Weiss Lake here in just a couple of weeks. So y'all stay tuned. We'll be back in just a minute. But right now, you're listening to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Y'all stay tuned.
Things you let me see.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Chase and Chad Schroeder, 2-time winners on the Alabama Bass Trail, Lake Martin and the Alabama River. Exactly the same, except not, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I call ourselves more local to Miller's Ferry than Cooter Spawn for sure. I mean, even though I live 15 minutes from it, there's just not a whole lot of tournaments on it, and we don't fish there a whole lot, to be honest.
Well, you just have to fish there at least once because now you are the 2025 Alabama River champs. I mean, two-time winners. How cool is that?
I'd say it's pretty cool. I mean, these tournaments are definitely so hard to win, especially at a place like Cooters. It's always been, I don't know, kind of a thorn in your side. It's you never know what they're going to do with the water. You never know the water level is going to be, so it makes it really hard place to practice. Like I say, you can't get a prediction on the water level. You can't get a prediction on how much water they're going to pull. So that makes it hard to decide whether you're going to practice for spots, whether you're going to practice for largemouth, or what's going to go on. So you kind of got to spend some time on the water and have a lot of different options. So.
Well, we say that. I know I had a couple of guys tell me that, in the past, they've worried about tearing up their boat because we've gone there with it flooded, and then we've gone there when they were just sucking the bottom out of it and there's so much debris and all of that. We didn't have that this time. I mean, we didn't have the huge water fluctuation. I know I went to the boat ramp on Wednesday. I happened to be in town and I was amazed at the amount of debris that was on the boat ramp. And when I was talking to people, I was reminded that it was 10 feet high just the weekend before that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I sent Chase a picture of I think it was Birmingham, like the weekend before that. I mean, they had flood in the streets. I was like, here we go again. The last couple of times we fished there, it's just been out of the banks and just messed everything up. But
yeah, we didn't have that this time. We just had that one downpour as I took post at the boat ramp. So let's talk about that. What boat number were you guys?
We were 133.
133, kind of middle of the pack. Were you worried about that? I mean, I'm sure at the beginning of the year you had kind of mapped out where your boat numbers were going to be. And for those people listening, we have 9 flights, 225 boats. If you divide it, it's 45 boats to a flight. So guys advanced 45 spots. So if you were boat number 1 at the first tournament, you were boat number 46, and then so on and so forth. So were you worried about that boat number?
A little bit, because we were planning on shad spawn and trying to catch largemouth was the game plan going in, but we realized real quick that wasn't going to play for us. Being boat 133, everybody else has kind of hit most of the good stuff before you can get there, so it was kind of knew it was going to take spots for us if we was going to have a chance.
Well, we talked to people on the water, and it was, if there was a shad spawn, it was over very quickly.
Yeah, it was over pretty quick.
All right.
But like we said, we were 133, so we couldn't really tell.
Yeah. We saw one little shad spawn, and like I say, it didn't last 15 minutes. But like I say, even though that the shad weren't spawning there around the areas that you wanted them to be, and you could have caught fish. The fish were there. It was just the matter of who got there first. And there's not a whole lot of. It's a very vast area, and everything's spread out on that river.
Right.
So you can get spun around real quick. So I mean, there in my opinion, there's 5 or 6 places that you can go and win it on a shad spawn. All right. And if you're boat 133, you run 40 miles down the river to hit a shad spawn, you got 2 or 3 boats on that bank. Well, you got to run another 15 miles or so to get to the next best area. And there might be somebody on that. So that's where we just kind of decided to try to find some spotted bass on Friday, given the boat number that we had. And we had found 3 or 4 different groups of spotted bass, and at 9:30 we just evacuated the largemouth deal and went spot fishing.
You say that you can get spun out, and you really can. That is a long river, and we saw guys that that ran it, we had trackers on them so we could see where they were. There was no way we were going there because they were in a metal boat and we were in fiberglass boats. That's one reason. And there was going to be no cell service where they were. But we saw guys that really kind of pigeonholed themselves. They had to make that work or come back with 10 pounds. So some guys swung for the fence and went up there, and it just did not work out for them.
Yeah, that's definitely what you run into on this lake. I mean, you could definitely know the lake and come in there with 8 pounds. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough tournament for real.
It is. Out of the 5 that you fish on the Alabama Bass Trail South, would you say that this is we refer to Neely Henry in the north as kind of the equalizer? I don't really think there's any really home lake advantage there because it's the one that the water fluctuates, the current fluctuates so much. I don't think anybody can just pinpoint what it's going to do. So I don't think it has a home lake advantage. Is this one of those lakes that you feel like kind of equalizes the field in the south?
Absolutely. I think this one in Martin, just because the weights are so tight at Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had a little over 10 pounds at Martin. And I think we come in 80th something place. But,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So 3/4 of a pound, and we're 60 more points ahead in the standings than we are right now.
Right.
I mean, it's just so tight right there. I think Martin and definitely this Cooter's Pond is probably the equalizer on the schedule.
60 more points puts you in 8th place in the points if that's the case. You know, I'm sitting here looking at the points race right now. You guys are sitting in 18th place with 563 points. So that puts you in about, maybe even up to 4th or 5th place if you would have, literally a half a pound, 1/4 of a pound would have changed it that much. I don't think people understand. We have 115, 120 bags from 9 to 10 pounds. That's
Absolutely.
That's why I like getting Martin over. And that way, really, it's done early. And I do think having it in April next year is going to make the weights go up. I think we'll have a little bit better weight there, but you're still going to have 220 limits. So it's still going to be stacked in there. Let's talk a little bit about your day. You said you, about 9:30, you abandoned the largemouth, went for some spots. How far from the boat ramp were you?
I would say 40 miles, probably, approximately.
Wow, so still a long run. After you stopped there on your first spot, how many bass did you boat there?
The first spot we caught we probably caught 15 fish, but we caught 2 close to 4, or caught 1 4-pounder and 1 pushing 4 pounds. And then we run back up, get 3 or 4 more spot holes, and we caught a bunch of fish though on pretty much on 2 spots that were pretty loaded with fish.
Just
right
couldn't
towards
call.
the end. I know the last we left them biting to come back to weigh-in, and we had probably we've caught 3 times in the last 45 minutes of the day.
Okay. How hard is it to leave them biting?
Oh gosh, I wanted to go back.
I was going to say, because 17 pounds, I think all of us kind of thought that 18, 19 pound range is where we would be. So knowing you're leaving with like 17 pounds, did that make it even harder to leave, thinking that there might be another 4-pounder there?
Yes, because we thought we needed to call one more time to have 18 and a half. We thought we needed a 4.5-pounder to have a chance.
Okay. Talk a little bit about the bait selection that you used.
I think everything that we caught came off a green pumpkin finesse jig 1/2 ounce, and we caught 2 of the ones that we weighed in on a Crush City freeloader.
Shocker.
Yep.
If I had
Hard to beat.
If I had a nickel for every time I've heard Crush City freeloader, Like I'd be rich and I wouldn't have to work at the Alabama Bass Trail anymore. But I swear, Darian swears by that bait. It's always a freeloader. We talked about it when we announced the schedule for this year. People are going to buy a bunch of red crankbaits, but they're going to end up throwing a freeloader. That's just what it's going to be.
Yeah, that bait is hard to beat. I mean, Connell won what 300 grand on it not too long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, he knows how to fish it a little bit. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. So you're in a green pumpkin jig and a freeloader. What's the depth that you're fishing? And what are you targeting?
We were fishing anywhere from 8 to 22 foot of water. I mean,
Okay.
literally, it was pulling up, and we're targeting just places that we know as far as really community holes, and they were just deeper, I think, than everybody else was fishing. But anywhere from 8 to 22 foot of water.
Okay, so are these current breaks or are they rock piles?
All
We
major
had a
river
couple
ledge.
on a couple stumps too that we were targeting.
Okay, but on the
kinda
main river
sneaky.
ledge? Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Could you so this was it current related at all? Because we didn't have a ton of current on Saturday.
Yeah, that was the deal. If this tournament would have been Friday when they were really ripping the current, it would have never took 17 pounds. There was some big fish biting Friday, which they were pulling. I don't know, 50% more water than what they were pulling.
Right. I was thinking it was at least
Saturday.
2 generators on.
And that's the reason that we caught them on the jig and that freeloader. You know what I mean? You could have caught them on anything, I think, Friday, and just those big spots are just hard to get to bite whenever they don't have a lot of current.
Right.
That's just all it is to it. I mean, it's different on lakes and stuff when you can go scope them up, suspended fish, but these fish on the river, they relate to something, and they're not those big fish just not going to eat unless they got some water rolling.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. You talked about you're more familiar with Miller's Ferry than you are with Cooter's Pond. What makes those two impoundments? Because there's just one dam away. What makes those impoundments so different?
I would say most of the tournaments are pretty much 85 to 90% of the tournaments are won with largemouth on Miller's Ferry. I mean, it's a largemouth impoundment, no doubt. It's a flatter, more delta area. Up here, I would say vice versa. I mean, you're going to win with spots before you will largemouth. I mean, you think about it in the past with ABT. I mean, I would say 80% of the tournaments are won with spots, wouldn't you? I mean,
Right.
it's very, very rare that you win a tournament up here with largemouth as far as a big boat tournament.
Right. Right.
Unless it's out in the trees.
True.
Unless
True.
flooded.
If it's flooded, you can get those largemouth to play. But I agree with you. I was real surprised with the spotted bass that you guys had because we didn't see the current. I know Darian and Luke and Jason all remarked about that on live, and everybody it seemed like we'd pull up to, they were like, we're just waiting on them to turn some current, to get some current moving so these fish will get active. And we didn't see the type of current that we're used to seeing there. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of glad it wasn't flooded. I get real nervous when guys start getting up in those rapids and start going up there. It makes me really, really, really nervous. But they can catch them up there, no doubt, no doubt. $15,000 for the win. Punched your ticket to the championship. That's got to feel a little good to be already secured in Wheeler Lake in October.
Well,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it feels real great.
So
Obviously, it's a place we've never been, but we're looking forward to it.
it's a big old body of water, 67,000 acres. It was my former home lake up until August of last year, so I love going back to Wheeler. Looking ahead, you've got Lake Eufaula. Any thoughts on that? I mean, you can kind of relax a little bit because you've got your win, you're in the championship, but I know you guys are not going to do that. What's your thoughts leading in? You've got 2 weeks from tomorrow to think about Lake Eufaula.
Well, we
It's
always
going to
liked
be fun, I think.
Yeah. there should be an abundance of bites up shallow and out deep. Probably going to be one out deep, but I guess you just kind of got to get out there and see how it goes. I mean, that place it's been good to us early in the year, but it can be really tough in June. I think no, that wasn't the championship last year. We had a tournament of ABT over there in June last year. That was good gracious, it was hot. And, it was tough. I think we had 14 something and got a check, and we left at 1:30 because we couldn't stand it anymore.
It was the hottest I think I have ever been in my life. We've had two really, really tough tournaments down there, and I think one of them was in May. That's when we had the sandstorm, the Sahara sandstorm of some kind. I mean, I remember that was the most brutal day until last year. And at Eufaula, I tell everybody this all the time, until you've been there, there's not a shade tree nowhere around to get under. And even if there's no wind blowing, it was the hottest place I think I had ever been in my life. You couldn't cool off. Nothing you did. I think I probably drank 40 bottles of water and still felt dehydrated. It was crazy. Any guesses on the weight that it's going to take on May 17th? And then, boom, we turn around and go there for the ABT 100 the first weekend in June. So what do you think it's going to take May 17th at Lake Eufaula?
You go first, Chase.
I'm going to say 23.5 to 24.
I'm gonna go.
And maybe
a little
maybe
higher.
bigger.
I think I'm gonna say 26 pounds.
26 pounds. How many holes are you going to have to hit? How many brush piles are you going to have to run to?
Probably
That's
about
gonna be our
70
problem.
brush piles.
Yeah, we don't have those. We don't have as many of those marked as we should. But
That's
that is
going to be.
You're gonna have to run them all day.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be an all-day affair. I don't think you're going to be able to sit down much in the boat. I think, sitting down, getting up. Your legs are going to get a good workout at Lake Eufaula, no doubt. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all taking time to join me on the podcast today. Congratulations on your second win on the Alabama Bass Trail. That's super cool. I said this earlier. I talked to you guys about it at the boat ramp the other day. The smile that has to be on Big Daddy Lawler's face, knowing that his boys from the Miller's Ferry area took home the win, has got to be a really cool thing for him right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. He loved it.
He did. He is missed. I hope he knows that, how missed he is.
Oh, he is big time.
Yeah, we certainly miss him. Thank you guys for tuning in with us today. Thank y'all. We'll have this posted on Tuesday of next week. Congratulations again on your second win on the Alabama Bass Trail.
Thanks, Kay.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, guys, there you have it. The winners of the Alabama River Chase and Chad Schroeder 1711 of Alabama River Spotted Bass. Like he said, I don't think anybody thought that 1711 was what it was going to take to win, especially after Friday's practice. That was the dock talk. And it ended up being pretty close, was that, everybody thought it was going to take that 19 pounds until we got out there and saw that they weren't pulling water. That's the core. That's the Alabama River. That's what we've come to believe from the Alabama River, is it's always going to be based on that water flow. So there you have it. We'll be back in just a minute. Lee Pitts up next. Pitts Outdoors guide there on Weiss Lake. Going to talk a little bit about the tournament. We'll even talk about his second place finish at Neely Henry, but we're really going to talk about navigation on Weiss Lake as we move into the first tournament since the new boating law went into effect on Weiss Lake. So y'all stay tuned for the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. We'll be right back.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water.
Welcome back to the third segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast, and it's a little bit different. Lee Pitts with Pitts Outdoors, based on Weiss Lake, but He has boat will travel, right, Lee?
I have boat will travel. That's my motto.
Two-time winner on the Alabama Bass Trail, just had a second place finish at Neely Henry Lake by a little bit. By a little bit. I almost got that third win on the Alabama Bass Trail. How does it feel? Two-time winner on the Alabama Bass Trail, great finish at Neely Henry last tournament, coming into your home lake.
It's I would like to say it's a really good feeling coming off of that one at Neely, but a little jitters. I mean, a little bit hometown lake. Here we go. Here it comes. I will say a little nervous. It's gonna be one of those deals where 5 days is gonna make a difference. Either it's going to be a real good one, it's going to be a slugfest, or it's still going to be tough.
Yeah.
So it's one of those deals. The weather is hitting right, the time is right, but there's going to be 5-6 days, whether it's just going to be on or it's still going to be tough.
Yeah. Right now, the bat is just a little bit off. You've got some postponers pulling away, but we really need, I mean, the water should be pretty much calm. I mean, we should be stable water conditions, don't you think? By May 10th.
I think so. Yeah. The water is going to be good. We've had a lot of fluctuation, Neely and Weiss here in the last month or so. Weather issues, which everybody's had that. We've had some weather issues. The water's jumped up and down. Fish have tried to get up tight. They pulled it down, they backed off, they'll come up again, they'll back off again. So I think it's going to get stable with us where at least the fish are getting in a comfort zone.
Okay. Are we thinking shad spawn's going to play a part on May 10th there at Weiss Lake?
It will. We're already starting to see some shad spawn right now. I don't really want to say a whole lot about that, but we're starting to see some shad spawn. And it's one of those deals. Somebody is going to pull up and sit down on that magical 50 yards, and it's going to be heavy in a hurry,
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's going to be a good tournament for everybody. We've already got some fish that are trying to back out. We've got some fish that are getting out there on the ledges a little bit. And the one thing that everybody knows me, I'm gonna fish shallow. But the one thing, some of these big females that spawned early, they're getting out there and they're feeding up. Somebody's going to go out there deep and bust them, and bust a big sack.
I hope so. I hope we see the Weiss Lake from a few years ago. We've had those couple of tournaments where we just haven't seen it show out. You've had a great fall and an early spring. I mean, what was it? 26 pounds won there just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing was, a lot of the big females were just pulling up then, cleaning the banks. They were getting ready. Guy hit them pretty good. Had a couple of big sacks that day, but then the next week you could see the weights were down because they locked up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of those things we're playing right now. Have those fish backed out enough and they've healed up enough where they're ready to feed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're going to see that. Did you ever think that you would see Weiss Lake host a 225 boat tournament like it does?
No, never did. I mean, used to when we would have those 75, 80 boat tournaments. Oh God, the lake's packed. What are we going to do? But, the thing is, Weiss has a lot of areas that people don't realize. We're a 32,000 acre lake, a lot of backwater, a lot of creeks, a lot of these back off the beaten path kind of deals that you can kind of get away from some of this traffic. So it's a great fishery. We got a lot of fish here. And the thing is, some guys are going to catch them. Some guys are going to get out there and struggle, but there's enough room that you can do a multiple of different things and be productive.
I think so too. I've watched the progression of Weiss Lake over the last 20 years, I guess, and it's been an amazing place. How was crappie season this year?
We had, we caught fish great in December, January. Really, really catching fish good, seeing a lot of fish. But once again, the weather issues. It's not just us. It's been the whole Coosa, Gunnersville, everybody. We've dealt with more weather issues this year than we've ever had to deal with. Our crappie fishing is still strong here. We've got some of the biggest crappie that we've ever had. We've had a lot of big fish caught this year. It's a great fishery, and a lot of people have came and they've struggled. We got the guys from Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois that come down here every year. What it is, Mother Nature has thrown us a little curveball. Our water fluctuation has affected the crappie. We've had a lot of current being pulled. We've had weather issues where all of a sudden you're in shorts and a t-shirt and a little light jacket, and then the next day you've got your winter gear on, it's spitting snow at you.
Right.
So, and it's been that way all over the whole Coosa chain, the whole Alabama chain, so it's one of those things we have to deal with. Mother Nature's not going to let you just beat on them all the time. She's going to protect what she's got.
Well, and that's nature. And people say this all the time. Lakes are cyclical. A lot of it depends on our weather. I mean, the first time we saw 38 bags over 20 pounds at Gunnersville, we had a massive shad kill 2 weeks before. So there is something to that whole science thing behind these fisheries. So I'm glad to hear that the crappie fishing has been good. I've worked tons of shows with you, and I was so blown away the first few times we worked boat shows and people were asking about Weiss Lake, and the number of people that knew about Weiss Lake. And I mean, you've been preaching that story forever, but it's always fun to go to those shows and hear stories of them coming and fishing with you routine. Like they've been coming 10, 12 years to fish with you on, and you're only 39.
Oh yeah, I'm a young guy. I'm still a young guy right here. But no, I do, and it's funny. I see these guys year after year that have been coming and fishing with me for so long, and we've all got stories. I could tell you, and you've heard some of my stories. Some of them we probably don't need to talk about during this deal right here, but we made a friendship, and we've made so many people that I see at these shows every year. They come up and talk to me, and we tell our stories that that they know just as much about the lake that I do, because we've been so many times together. I've got guys that from Ohio and one group in particular that come from Kentucky. They fly their private jet in and they land at Gunnersville. They come over here with me, and we'll spend 3 or 4 days together. And these guys right here, we built a friendship, and I've never seen guys that will go back. I'll take them back to their jet, and they'll have a garbage bag full of crappie and just throw them up in the back in the corner. I mean, these guys right here, they beat all I've ever seen. They'll send me pictures. They go up in South Dakota pheasant hunting, and they'll send me pictures of all their bird dogs sitting in the seats looking out the windows in their private jet. So, I've made some good memories on a lot of people that come see me.
I was going to say, you run with some high rollers, sir. You run with some high rollers.
No, I don't know about that. They allow me to hang out with them for a day or two.
I bet. Let's talk a little bit more about Weiss Lake. First year that we're going to be operating under this new boating safety law that went into effect in October. 100 feet from the bank, structures, docks, things like that. You think, okay, well, you can't run next to someone's seawall, but in certain areas of Weiss Lake, the channel swings very close to the bank. So talk about that and what areas guys need to be very, very cognizant of where they're running.
And it's one of the things when you and I talked about this about a month ago, I could think of maybe one place or two places. And I have talked with the water patrol here. We've got some great guys that patrol this water. They do a great job with this. And once again, they know also some of the places that you run and you are in the middle of the river, it's going to be pretty close. But it's like they were trying to tell me the other day, said everybody's worried about this 100 feet. That's 33 yards. So, your bow hunters, your guys that really kind of know your yardage, that's 33 yards that what you got to come off some of these docks. There's a place or two, especially coming, let's say we call it the third bridge, there in Cedar Bluff coming into center. When you come out of it, going past Jake's on the Lake, and you're going up into the Coosa, it is pretty tight where the river runs off of those docks going towards the Alabama Queen right there. And you can run that fine unless you've got some traffic coming off the other side. Right now, the water's full pool. So there's a give and take on that. But where a lot of these guys normally we run some of these channels and some of these little gaps, the Water Patrol has told me, he said, look, we know there's a couple of areas that's close. They're close to it, and they're give and take with us on that. But here's one of the things that worries me about it. There's some areas that you can run that could be iffy on this. And a lot of these guys said, hey, I've ran this for 20 years. Okay, that's fine. And they're being safe running these areas. But and I don't know how to put this. Let's just say somebody says, well, we're going to protest you on this. There's places that these guys have really got to kind of watch and see. And I know that coming up my way, if you come through what we call the James's Branch cut coming up the Coosa River, if you've got two boats coming, one going down, one going up, if you're on the left, you're going to be pretty close. So there may be some issues where something that you ran for 20 years, if you think it's going to be close, just shut her down. I mean, just sit down for just a minute, because there's a lot of places you can't idle 4 miles.
Right.
But so it's one of those things that we've just got to be aware of. And I went out on some of my runs and looked at some places, and I think, well, everything's okay, everything's good, because it puts it in more perspective when you're saying 100 feet. All right, those guys are like, oh man, but they're looking at 50 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So as I talked with our water patrol, said you got to realize that's 33 yards. So some of the places that guys are iffy or worried about, you're okay. It's just, we got to use, as the Water Patrol told me, use some common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole deal, that what they're looking at it too. Use some common sense on it.
In these areas that you've kind of looked at and you think are potential areas where it's going to be close, are those going to be high trafficked areas?
It will be, because that is in the main river channel. Most of these places are in the main river, where you're going to have a lot of activity coming through. And plus on weekends also, you're going to have pleasure boats. You're going to have and it's the time of year where these guys, you're going to have wake boats, ski boats, pontoons, things like that. So it is going to be in some of these traffic areas. And you're looking at, let's just say, if some of these guys are going to go up in the Chattooga River, okay, there's a no wake and an idle zone by the condos right before the Cobia Bridge,
Mm-hmm.
coming out towards what the locals call the bubble hole, which that's your hard left going back towards Cornwall Furnace.
Yep.
Okay, once you get up on that bank to run towards Cornwall, you're pretty close right there. I mean, it's one of those deals, but that's how the river runs. That's
Mm-hmm.
how the channel is in through there. And I know a lot of guys are going to go up that way. So, just be aware of it. Watch what you're doing. Watch for traffic. You can kind of push that left side going up. But if you've got traffic, somebody's probably going to have to sit down.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. I want us to be as safe as we can. We talk about that at each tournament about safety and all of that. This concerns me because you're going to have guys that are going to be running and they're going to have to sit down, and what's going to be coming behind them at what point. It concerns me. So I'm glad that you're on here to talk about that. If I was coming to the Alabama Bass Trail at Weiss Lake next week, I would probably spend one day or part of a day looking at those areas to see what I could do and what I couldn't. That would have to be part of my practice.
Yeah, and I think you're right by saying that, because so many, and I will say this: we had a this last Saturday here on Weiss. We had a high school tournament going out, and not just in your congested areas. We had another problem with an accident that happened in the open water main lake. Don't know how it happened. Don't know what caused it, but we had one competitor's boat hit another boat and knocked the motor off of it in a high school event this last week.
Yeah.
Things happen on the water, and that's one of the things I try to tell with my clients, that when we go out and we're out in the boat, hey, everybody sit down. Well, no, we're okay, but things happen on the water. The more you can be aware, and it could have been that there was no fog issues, it was just an open water deal. Somebody, and I don't know how to put this. I try to tell everybody, we've ran these boats all our lives. The things you see on TV with these guys running wide open, these guys running here and there, we play off each other. We've all fished against each other. We all fish with each other. We've done whatever. Each boat has a different kind of combination. Sometimes you get caught in a wake and you can't get out of it. And a lot of times people don't realize that. Even if you're doing everything right or whatever, you get caught in a wake on some of these boats and you can't get out of it. Best thing to do is just come off that throttle.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys that maybe they don't spend as much time as some of the others do on the water. It's something that don't ever be, and once again, don't ever be ashamed, or don't ever, but if you don't feel comfortable in something, come off that throttle.
Right.
Because
Right.
it's so much easier to sit there. And I do this a lot, even now, today, when we have some of these blast offs. If we've got a little fog or I don't feel comfortable with it, hey, I'm no stranger to being the last man out. I don't care.
Yeah.
I let everybody get gone, let everything clear out, and then ease on. But it's a lot of it is just your adrenaline gets to pumping. Your excitement gets. Here I am. I'm fishing the ABTs. Man, this is the biggest event I've ever fished in my life. Let's not make it our last one.
Right.
Let's just kind of calm down. Be easy. If you're not comfortable with something, back out of it and then let her loose again.
Well, I know I've spoken with a lot of your law enforcement officers there on Weiss Lake. They're easy to get along with, and they don't mind you asking them. They much rather you ask them and be clear on something than to not be clear and get a ticket or be pulled over or whatever. So I know you're going to be away a lot next week.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to show up probably Friday night about midnight to take all my crappie stuff out of the boat and hopefully find something that a greenhead will eat. So, it's one of those deals that I've been very, very fortunate. I've been with Bobby Garland for 18 years now. Do a lot of work with them, and we do a lot of riders camps. We do a lot of things out promoting wonderful product with them. And I'm going to be down at the Alabama River. Dan Dunnemuller is putting together a big riders camp for us, and we're going to introduce a whole lot of stuff. And I'm excited about that, but I'll be excited about coming back home and getting ready to see everybody with ABT. So,
well, we'll be excited to be there.
It's one of those things yeah, it's one of those things. Hey, you got to go to work, and I hope these fish know where they're supposed to sit down.
You haven't gone out there and gave them their talking to yet, have you?
Well, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna say, okay, you stay right here, you hide, you face the bank, you don't face out in front. You stick your nose up in the bank.
Well, one thing we do know, they do not bite on top of a dock. I think I have floated a worm up on top of a dock a couple of times there at Weiss Lake and did not get bit. So I've been made fun of a few times about that.
They gotta really want it.
They're
Yeah, they
not
gotta
jumping docks
really,
to get
really
my
want
worm.
it to get up there and get that.
Lee,
No.
I didn't think. Yeah, well, I'm kind of surprised you didn't bring that up. You've gotten a lot of laughs over that over the last few years. Um, fishing ABT, we talked about you never thought you'd see a 225 boat tournament on Weiss Lake. You've been fishing Alabama Bass Trail every year. I mean, 2014 first year, finishing up our 12th season. I say finishing up. We're close to finishing up. Be honest, 2014, did you ever think this thing would be in its 12th season?
I guess the first one I was kind of starstruck with all the this caliber of fishermen being all together, and it's just grown. I mean, the thing is, you look at the ABT, you have more talent and more sticks in any other event that I can ever think of, and it has grown with it. I'm just so excited, and so I want to say that's a something I can brag about. Hey, I fished the first one, and I hope I fish the last one. So it's just one of those deals that I'm just tickled to death that I'm able to be a part of what a great organization this is, what a great group of guys that we have here. I room with a lot of different guys, and we talk and we cut up. But just being able to get out and see what this is, and just, I mean, it just kind of makes you proud to know that I'm fortunate enough to be a part of this, and tickled to death with it. And like I said, everywhere we go, all over Alabama, everywhere we go, you can see the local people, the business people. They're tickled to have us there. They want to talk and cut up with everybody that comes in.
Yes,
The
they
new
do.
guys that come in each year, the excitement that they have. It's just great. And I've got some friends of mine. This may be their second or third year, but it's still the excitement and the fun and the just the adrenaline rush of getting out there and just seeing everything that this is put together with.
It's funny because a lot of them turn their head when I walk by, like I think they are like scared of me, and I don't understand that.
Well, you're a legend. I mean, you're Kay Donaldson. Oh my Lord, it's you have an entourage that follows you, and it's just
No,
a
no,
lot of them are just starstruck.
no.
So
I don't think it's starstruck.
and
I think they act literally scared of me, and I hate that. I hate that they act scared of me. But I thought you would find that the most funny is that people are scared of me.
I think it's and I will say now, you have an aura about you. When you come into a room, you take charge. I will say that. So I think a lot of them are a little nervous about that.
I've also been thrown out of a couple of those rooms, so we won't even talk about we won't even talk about those
Well,
situations.
sometime a girl got to do what she got to do.
That's true. That's true. Any weight predictions on Weiss Lake in a couple weeks?
I think it's going to take low 20s. And even if something does happen weather-wise and they pull water down, you look at this caliber of fishermen, you can put them all at a golf course pond, and somebody's going to catch 20 pounds out of it. It's just
Sure.
it's one of those deals. This is one of the toughest tournament trails out there. It's always going to be no matter what team it is, it could be anybody's day, and it'll be something just like it was when we had a couple years ago when it was kind of more postponed. Things were a little slow, and the guys pulled out there on a deeper road bed and caught, what was it, 25, 26 or
26 pounds.
something?
Yeah.
26. And we're like, how? What happened? But it's always somebody will figure it out. Somebody will find that little mega school. And especially now, you're forward facing, where we used to have to guess for it on our deeper water. Now you can look at it, you can see them, and you can attack them. It's going to happen.
I believe so. I'd love to see another 26-pound bag come off there, but I think you're right. I think we'll be somewhere in that 22-pound range. I would like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to see multiple bags.
Whatever it is, whether it be 19, whatever, I hope I get it.
If it takes 15 to win,
I hate to be that way, but I hope it's me,
I don't think anybody would blame you for that. I think most people would feel that way. Most people would feel that way. Lee, I certainly appreciate you coming on here. I know that you have a lot of clients in and out, in and out. I know you've got a busy week next week. I do appreciate you coming on board with us. Thank you for fishing every year the Alabama Bass Trail. It means a lot to me, and I know our guys always love to see you come across the stage.
Well, it means a lot to me too, Kay, and thank you so much. Like I said, it's the people out there that have never been to an ABT and never seen the stage, never seen the weigh-ins, or not even competed. It is something to see.
Well, thank you. Guys, there you have it. Lee Pitts Outdoors, right there on Weiss Lake, giving you all the information. We'll be back on the fourth segment. We're going to have an extra long podcast this week. So we'll be back in just a minute on the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Y'all stay tuned.
Big banks only care about one thing: ROI. So when it comes to your small business, you can expect a big no. At AmFirst, we don't just invest in your business. We invest in you and your goals. With great rates on loans, lines of credit to help you grow, and business checking accounts. Because at AmFirst, business is personal.
I tell you, that Lee Pitts is something else. Welcome back to the last segment of the podcast. And yes, this is a much longer podcast than we normally have. We missed a week, and we have to do Weiss Lake preview. And we've got to talk about, if you've not already heard, the 2026 schedule was announced last Wednesday. You got to see it via video, the real-time raw reaction from Darian, Luke, and Jason about the tournament schedule. We're excited about it, looking forward to it. As always, priority registration August 1st through the 14th for current team members. New team registration August the 14th. We'll talk more about the schedule in the next podcast, just because we've had so much going on here. But I do want to talk about, we're 27 days away from registration from the Alabama Bass Trail 100. New teams can register June the 1st through the 10th. And then new team registration is June the 11th at 5:30 a.m. And that is on AlabamaBassTrail100.org. Again, those dates are January the 17th at Smith Lake out of Coleman, Alabama. June the 6th, Neely Henry Lake, right there in Gadsden, Alabama. And then November the 7th at Lake Jordan, or Jordan, depending on how you say it, there in Wetumpka, Alabama. So a real fun schedule there as well. You can find all the information about that on AlabamaBassTrail100.org or on Alabama Bass Trail 100 on Instagram. Everything should be posted there. Again, those dates for registration, new teams can register June the 10th, so be ready for that. Again, we'll talk more about the 2026 schedule in the next podcast. Lots of video content out there about it. If you have questions, of course, you can always inbox us, k@alabamabasstrail.org. Happy to answer all of your messages or comments about the schedule. Hopefully you like it. I'll just run through it quickly. North Division, you're starting off at Lake Gunnersville, then going to Pickwick, headed right back to Neely Henry, going to Wheeler Lake, and then finishing up at Weiss in June. South Division, you are starting at Lake Jordan, then you're going to Lay Lake. April, you'll be at Lake Martin. May, you'll be at Logan Martin Lake, and you'll finish up at the Alabama River. So that is the schedule. I won't give you the dates. We'll talk more about that. But the championship, first time since 2016, the championship goes to Lake Eufaula, October the 16th and 17th. It's a no entry fee championship, paying out $100,000, $50,000 to the first place prize. Going to be a lot of fun. I know Foster Bradley's probably licking his chops to get back to Eufaula. He and Britt Limley have won the only championship there at Lake Eufaula. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you, guys. Thank y'all for being patient with me today. It is a long podcast. I apologize for that. Hopefully you've got some information that you needed. I want to thank again our guests, Chad and Chase Schroeder, your winners of the Alabama Bass Trail South Division on the Alabama River. Mr. Lee Pitts of Pitts Outdoors for talking to us a little bit about Weiss Lake. And all other kinds of things that Lee likes to talk about. Thank them for tuning in with me today. I want to remind you to hug your loved ones, hug your mom and them, especially as we go into the week of Mother's Day. Make sure that you are thankful, and if your mother is still here with you, please make sure that she is loved on and given a little extra care for the Mother's Day weekend that we're heading into. Love those fur babies. Give them a few extra treats. If they're baby goats, if they're pigs, whatever they are. Mine's a dog, but yours may be a cat, whatever. Love on them. Give them a few extra treats. Get out and enjoy the great outdoors in the great state of Alabama. It is absolutely beautiful, and it's heating up around the state. Get out, hike, bike, canoe, kayak, whatever your heart desires. There's plenty to do. See, eat, do everything in the state of Alabama. So get out there and enjoy that. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. God bless, and peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.